can be identified even further in the Quran with Gog and Magog. And this is my book on Gog and Magog. Gog and Magog are in the Quran. And you better study that subject of Gog and Magog, because they are the ones who control power in the world today, Ya'juj and Ma'juj. And if you follow them, if you remain under their umbrella, what are the consequences? Sahih Bukhari, and the hadith repeated 4 times, but you'll hardly ever find anyone mentioning that hadith from the mimbar, or even in Charama. That on Judgment Day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say to Adam alayhi salam, take out the people for Jahannam. This is Hadith al-Qudsi, Sahih Muslim, Hadith al-Qudsi, direct speech of Allah. Adam alayhi salam will ask, how many are they, O Allah? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reply and say, out of every 1,000, take how many? 999. You know the hadith, mashallah. Out of every 1,000, take 999 for Jahannam. The companions of the Prophet ﷺ were terrified when they heard that. And he, the Prophet, smiled and said to them, good news for you. The one for Jannah will be from you. But the 999 will be Ya'juj and Ma'juj, will be Ahlu Ya'juj and Ma'juj. And so you're going to have a global society in Akhirul Zaman. And that global society, which comes into being in consequence of globalization, would be the global society of Gog and Magog. And once it embraces you, it's going to take you into the hellfire. Let us now leave Libya and come to Syria. We don't have time for Yemen. We don't have time for Bahrain. We don't have time for Saudi Arabia. Syria. Syria is so complex a case. You cannot say that it is an uprising, because the Zionists are actually recruiting people, paying them, arming them to go and fight in Syria. The Turkish forces are also doing the same, instigating people to go and fight and providing them with arms and weapons. This is therefore not a popular uprising. This is like Libya, an insurrection. But Syria also has a very large Sunni Muslim community. And we can now recognize that it was not by accident that the Sunni Muslims of Syria, in consequence of French strategy, were kept oppressed and suppressed by a sectarian Shia movement, the Alawi, for how many years now? Brutally suppressed and oppressed. And so when the time comes and they can smell the breath of freedom, there will be certainly an element of popular uprising as well in Syria. A quest for freedom from oppression and sectarian domination by the Alawi. The Alawi are a branch of the Shia, and Iran has not acted wisely on the subject of Syria. The Syrian Muslims, the Sunni Muslims of Syria, are now openly accusing Iran of arming and supporting the regime in Syria to succeed in its oppression and suppression of the present uprising. As a consequence, we can easily anticipate that if these uprisings in Syria were to succeed, and the majority Sunni Muslims were to replace the present regime, that is Alawi, there are going to be significant negative repercussions for Iran. The Zionists are not unaware of that. Their objective is to isolate Iran, and they want to take away a very important strategic partner of Iran, namely Syria. It would have been more sensible of Iran to publicly advise the sectarian Shia Syrian regime that you need to share power with the Sunni Muslims, who are our brothers in faith and who have been long suppressed and oppressed. And it would have been very wise, it would have been excellent diplomacy on the part of Iran to intervene and to support the cause of justice in Syria. And in so doing, the Syrian Sunni Muslims would not have fallen, as they are falling unfortunately, into the same NATO trap. There are implications in Syria. I don't know whether the insurrection will succeed. Russia and China have just vetoed. It didn't come to the Security Council, it was vetoed before it came to the Council. A similar resolution as they had on Libya. So with the Russian and China, the vote was 9 against 2. With the Russian and Chinese veto, it means that there is no possibility for NATO to intervene militarily. And therefore there is a likelihood, I don't know, the likelihood that the regime would survive in Syria. But from our Islamic eschatological perspective, we don't look at the subject merely in the short-term perspective. We will focus, and I hope my students in different parts of the world will concentrate on this. We will focus on Damascus in this context, that the sign of all signs of Akhirul Zaman is the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. The Pope doesn't know it, but we know it because of the hadith in Sahih Muslim, that when Nabi Isa alayhi salam returns, he's going to return in Damascus. And so events that are unfolding in Damascus are of supreme importance for us. That prior to the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, Imam al-Mahdi must emerge. And when Nabi Isa alayhi salam returns, Imam al-Mahdi will be in Damascus, in the masjid. It is becoming fashionable by some of the intelligentsia in Pakistan, for example, to discount the ahadith on Imam al-Mahdi as fabrication, because Allama Iqbal, or Dr. Muhammad Iqbal, dismissed them. in his book entitled The Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam. And Ibn Khaldun also dismissed them as fabrications, which is why Ibn Khaldun is so famous in the Western world. Now you can understand why. Because he dismissed the ahadith on Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam as fabrications. What they didn't understand is that there's a divine method. That when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Messiah the first time, He raised a man to prepare the way for the coming of the Messiah. That man was his cousin, Nabi Yahya alayhi salam, the Prophet John. And when Nabi Isa alayhi salam returned as an adult to the Holy Land, it was in front of Nabi Yahya alayhi salam that he came. And Nabi Yahya alayhi salam says, here he is, this is the man you've been waiting for. This is the Messiah. The divine method of positive identification. History repeats itself, but Ibn Khaldun missed the bus. And Dr. Muhammad Iqbal missed the bus. And may Allah bless them, they're very great scholars. We are nothing compared to them. And so when the Messiah is to come back, Allah raises a man to play the same role that Nabi Yahya alayhi salam played. And that is the rationale for Imam al-Mahdi. And when Nabi Isa alayhi salam descends in the masjid, in Damascus, not Tripoli, Imam al-Mahdi will be in the masjid. They'll be ready preparing for salat. And before the salat could commence, he comes down. And Imam al-Mahdi will look at him and say, this is the Messiah. Positive identification. Repeating itself, the divine methodology. Before that happens, Imam al-Mahdi has to proclaim himself to be the Mahdi in Mecca. You may have heard my lecture, it's on YouTube. When he proclaims himself as the Mahdi in Mecca, he's going to be attacked by an army from Sham. Which means that the believers are not going to be in control of Damascus from now until that day. Are you following me? He's going to be attacked by an army from Sham. Damascus today is not only ruled by a sectarian Shia movement that is oppressing the majority Sunni Muslims, brutal suppression, but also Damascus today is the supreme voice in the Arab world of Arab nationalism, taking over from Baghdad. Arab nationalism is a rival to Islam. And so an army is going to come out of Sham to attack Imam al-Mahdi. And when an army crosses Medina, going south to Mecca, the earth will open and swallow that army. This is the third of the three khusuf. 10 major signs of the last day. Number 1, Dajjal. Number 2, Gog and Magog. Number 3, the return of the son of Mary. Number 4, Dukhan. Number 5, Dabbatul Ard. Number 6, that the sun will rise from the west. Number 7, 8 and 9, 3 earthquakes. But these are earthquakes in which the earth sinks down. So they're called khusuf. 1 in the east, 1 in the west, and the third in Arabia, not Tamansri, UK, Arabia. And when this takes place, that army is going to be swallowed. This is sign number 9. And number 10 is that the fire will come out of Yemen.